The galaxy had long been at peace, or so the alien empires believed. The vast coalition of advanced civilizations, known as the Consortium, ruled with efficiency, their knowledge and technology far surpassing that of any known species. Their domination spanned millennia, a golden age of tranquility for most of the galaxy. But in a quiet corner of space, humanity, overlooked, underestimated, and largely ignored, was about to shatter that peace forever. To the Consortium, humans were an oddity. They weren't particularly advanced, nor were they impressive in size or strength compared to the other species in the galactic order. They were treated as an anomaly, a race content to remain on the fringe of galactic affairs. Some even considered them irrelevant. But humans were something far more than the Consortium realized. They were dormant war gods. It began with a mistake. The Draenox Dominion, an expansionist faction within the Consortium, grew restless, eager to flex their military might. They eyed the human colonies as easy prey, isolated planets with no significant defenses and a fledgling space fleet. What harm could there be in annexing a few human systems? They were, after all, a primitive race. The attack came without warning. Draenox warships appeared in orbit over several human colonies, blasting through meager planetary defenses. The humans barely had time to react. The initial bombardment destroyed infrastructure, and their cities lay in ruins. Thousands of lives were lost in mere hours. The Draenox hailed their victory as inevitable, assuming that the humans would fall to their knees and surrender. But they didn't know what humans were truly capable of. On a quiet moon colony named Haven, Captain Sarah Kincaid, a former soldier, now a civilian, watched the news reports from the front line. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. She had retired from the military after a lifetime of service in small, insignificant conflicts. She had thought she'd seen the worst war had to offer. But this was different. The Consortium had crossed a line, one they couldn't uncross. Kincaid knew humanity had its limits. Civilizations crumbled, planets fell, wars were lost. But there was one thing that remained unbroken across every human generation: their will to fight back. Humanity had a deep, primal rage, one that lay dormant for centuries, waiting to be awakened. When humans were pushed too far, that fire was ignited. The Draenox had no idea what was coming. "They think we'll beg," Kincaid whispered, her eyes hardening, "but they're about to learn what it means to awaken sleeping gods." Across the human colonies, a quiet fury began to stir. The Draenox, who had expected humans to crumble in fear, were shocked when reports came in that their occupied planets were erupting in rebellion. Civilians, miners, and farmers, those untrained in war, rose up, using whatever weapons they could scavenge. Makeshift militias were formed overnight, and every man, woman, and child took up arms. But it wasn't just about survival anymore. Humanity wasn't interested in defense, they wanted revenge. In the capital city of New Earth, a meeting of the United Human Colonies convened. Representatives, military commanders, and key scientists gathered in an emergency session. General Marcus Varon, a grizzled veteran of the Terran Navy, stood at the head of the table. "We've been underestimated for far too long," Varon growled. "They think we're weak, they think we've forgotten how to fight, but they're wrong. This is our chance to remind the galaxy who we are." The others at the table murmured in agreement. For centuries, humans had avoided galactic conflict, focusing instead on expanding their colonies and building peaceful alliances with other races. But in the depths of their history, in their very blood, humans carried the legacy of war. They were descendants of warriors, conquerors, and survivors of countless battles. That fire had never been extinguished, it had merely been sleeping. The decision was unanimous. The United Human Colonies would no longer be passive observers in the galaxy. They would strike back, not as victims, but as conquerors. "We'll remind them," Varon said, his voice cold and determined, "that humans are gods of war, dormant no more." Within weeks, the transformation was complete. Human space was no longer a collection of peaceful colonies, it had become a war machine. Factories churned out weapons, starships, and military supplies at an unprecedented rate. Every colony became a fortress, and every human a soldier. They tapped into forgotten technologies, ancient battle strategies, and their primal instincts. The Consortium watched in shock as the human war effort exploded into action. The Draenox, once confident in their victory, found themselves overwhelmed. Their fleets, which had effortlessly conquered the human colonies, were now being hunted down and destroyed. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, launching devastating strikes on Draenox-controlled worlds, leaving nothing but wreckage in their wake. But it wasn't just the ships. Humanity had embraced something deeper, something more dangerous. They fought with a savagery that no other species could match. Every battle was personal, every strike an act of vengeance. The Draenox soldiers, once feared across the galaxy, found themselves in a war they couldn't win. They were not fighting just soldiers, they were fighting a species that had awakened its dormant gods of war.
On a battlefield above the planet Kairos, Captain Kincaid led her forces in a daring assault against a Draenox armada. The enemy ships, sleek and menacing, loomed in orbit, but Kincaid was undeterred. Her voice rang through the comms as she gave the final order. "Humans never kneel," she said, her voice calm but filled with fury. "We rise." The human fleet surged forward, their ships unleashing a torrent of firepower. The battle was brutal and relentless. Draenox ships, designed for precision warfare, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of the human attack. The human ships felt like their lives and the future of their species depended on it, because they did. Kincaid's flagship cut through the enemy lines, unleashing its full arsenal. Her crew, a mix of military veterans and civilian volunteers, fought with the same primal energy that had been driving humanity for months. As the last Draenox ship exploded in a blaze of fire, Kincaid stood on the bridge, staring out at the wreckage. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Back in the consortium capital, the once confident leaders of the Galactic Order were in panic. They had underestimated humanity, thinking them primitive and weak. But now, the name human was spoken in fear across the stars. Reports came in from every corner of the galaxy. Human fleets had invaded Draenox space, laying siege to their homeworlds. The consortium debated, desperate to find a way to stop the human advance, but it was too late. The sleeping giants had awoken, and there was no turning back. The war raged for years, but in the end, there was only one outcome: the Draenox Dominion. Once the terror of the galaxy fell, their empire shattered, their fleets decimated by the relentless human onslaught, and the consortium, the mighty coalition of advanced races that have ruled for millennia, was forced to acknowledge a new power in the galaxy. Humanity stood victorious. But the galaxy would never forget what had happened. The legend of the dormant war gods humans who, when pushed too far, became unstoppable would echo for generations. And in the halls of the consortium, they would always remember one thing: never provoke a human. The galaxy trembled in the wake of humanity's ascension. The Draenox were no more, their once mighty empire reduced to scattered remnants. But the war had not ended, it had merely shifted. Humanity's rise had created a ripple effect, and now, other factions within the consortium began to see the humans not just as a threat, but as an opportunity. The Jara Collective, a powerful coalition of telepathic beings, saw a chance to exploit humanity's newfound dominance. They believed that if they could control the minds of these dormant war gods, they could harness the raw power of the humans for their own purposes. In secret, the Jara launched an infiltration campaign, sending telepathic agents deep into human space. Their plan was simple: manipulate the human leadership, sow discord, and weaken their unity. If successful, they could bring humanity to its knees without firing a single shot. But once again, the aliens underestimated humanity. On New Earth, Captain Kincaid had returned from the front lines, now a decorated war hero and a symbol of human resilience. But something gnawed at her mind. Strange reports had been coming in: odd behavior among key leaders, whispers of insidious plans, and unexplained disappearances. It was too subtle to be a coincidence. "We're being targeted," she told General Varen during a private meeting in the war room. "Who?" Varen asked, frowning. Kincaid's eyes narrowed. "The Jara, they're trying to get inside our heads, turn us against each other." Varen's jaw tightened. "They think they can break us from within." Kincaid shook her head, her expression hard. "They don't understand. We've survived worse. We don't just fight with weapons, we fight with our will. They'll never control us." The Jara's infiltration was discovered just in time. Human forces quickly mobilized, rooting out the telepathic agents and turning their own tactics against them. The humans adapted, once again proving that their greatest strength wasn't just their power, but their relentless spirit. The Jara Collective, having failed to manipulate humanity, was forced to retreat, but they left with a lesson learned: humans were not a force that could be controlled or bent to the will of others. They were the dormant gods of war, and they would never be slaves to any power in the galaxy. As the Jara fled, humanity stood taller than ever, their unity unbreakable, their resolve unshaken. And the galaxy would remember, humanity could be challenged, but never conquered.